Politik Malaysia dan Antarabangsa in 2017. Professor Sani was the Director of Research and Innovation Management Center from 2017 to 2018. In addition, he was also Dean of School of International Studies from 2011 until 2013, and he was also a Senate member and a chairman for the program of International Affairs in College of Law, Government and International Studies at University Utara Malaysia, or Malaysian Northern University. He was also a chairman of National Resilience Studies at the Institute of Tun Dr. Mahathir's Thought, IPDM, also at the University Utara Malaysia. Professor Sani was awarded fellowship grants and appointed as visiting fellow in the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies in Singapore in 2014. And he was also visiting professor at the National Institute of Development and Administration in Bangkok, Thailand. He has published his articles in Malaysian and international journals, and 34 of his articles were indexed by ISI, Scopus, and ERA, such as in Japanese Journal of Political Science, Journal of Contemporary Asia, Asian Journal of Political Science, Asian Politics and Policy, and Asia Pacific Media Educator. He is also a member of advisory editorial board for the journal Manusia dan Masyarakat, Man and Society from the University of Malaysia, and Journal of International Studies from University Utara Malaysia. Last but not least, Professor Sani published 13 books. 2 of them were published by Institute for Southeast Asian Studies in Singapore. Professor Muhammad Azizuddin Sani, welcome to IRF webinar.
Thank you very much.
We are pleased to have you with us today, and I would like to pass on the microphone to you, and we look forward to your insights on the current Malaysian political dynamics and developments amid the COVID-19 crisis. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Osman, for introducing me. You know, it's very lengthy biography of me that you mentioned there, and also it seems like a burden for me actually to share with you my thoughts and knowledge about the topic that we're going to cover for today. Yeah? So I think before I start, also I want to express my thankfulness to IRF for inviting me to give more or less like a lecture or even my talk to the audience. I know it's televised online on Facebook and also many other mediums, and hopefully my thoughts can be shared, and so we can also have kind of an exchange of ideas after this. So I think first of all, I just want to share my slide first. See. Okay, actually this is topic given to me by Datuk Farouk, asking me to talk something on this topic, which I think is a topic many people in Malaysia particularly and also abroad Impasse, whether it's a deadlock now in our stations in Malaysia, but some I think probably might see that we are actually in the process of because we are new nation and also new democracy, then we are experiencing in our democracy right now So what we see is political arrangement that we see right now is something which going to develop in coming years while we are going towards maturity in democracy. Okay. Let me share. Oh, sorry. Okay. What I try to discuss here in my talk, actually, I don't want to become too academics in my discussions, because probably it might confuse some viewers who are not from the field of political science. I try to mellow down. Now, but also probably what happened historically, in the past, because the past actually determine what we see right now. But somehow, because my field is political theory, and also, I'm also always doing writings on political models, But I'm also going to touch slightly on this, but not in depth. At least just give the overview for our listeners here. That it's actually difficult really to understand Malaysian politics from any political theories that exist today. Somehow we need some kind of modification, because many political theories right now, particularly either in terms of democracy or looking in the context of ideology, which I think is not so much can be applied in the context of Malaysia. Somehow we need some kind of new dimension to the theories. Okay. For example, I'll give you a few examples here. For example, in the case of looking in the context of political parties in Malaysia that exist in Malaysia, it's difficult to see the structure, the system that apply in Malaysia is similar to any other countries. Like in Europe, for example, where ideology becomes so prominent and dominant. In Malaysia, we can see that political party not subscribe to any particular ideology. Party that subscribe to certain political ideology normally won't last until today. For example, like we used to have Communist Party, which engaged into war with the government and later on lost, and they surrendered in 1989. And you see that we also have Socialist Party like Parti Rakyat Malaysia and also Socialist Front, who also never last until today, and also struggle to really to gain support from the people. And in this context, you can see that prolong or not is not only based on their agendas, but also sometimes their approach in dealing with the issue of ethnicity and also race. So I think Malaysia is a bit different. From the top until the grassroots actually very structured. And they also apply some kind of political culture in order to attract loyalty among the electorates and also supporters, through patronage system, for example. So I think you can see that there's some elements of different in terms of political party in Malaysia and also other countries. And political party also like the mass movement, And I think previously we all talk about two-party system exists in Malaysia, which is I think now crumble. This I think I will explain later in my talk. And we also talk about system, because we are a divided society. We have multi-ethnic, multiracial makeup of the society. We apply modified constitutionalism, which is not really a pure constitutionalism that propagate by Aaron Lippert, for example, who introduced the theory. But we try to modify it according to our context. But the elements of power block, meaning that parties that representing ethnic groups is there. But somehow this structure, which is I think we can apply in the context of Perikatan Nasional as a coalition, already crumbled. That also I will explain later. But there are so many other theories like centripetalism, for example, to see a multiracial context, multicultural context in institutions and also in political party and also in election, which I think have yet not been applied in Malaysia, and I'm not sure whether it's applicable in Malaysia. That also I will explain later when looking in the context of Malaysia. So what I want to say here is that sometimes Western theory cannot be applied in the context of studying politics in Malaysia. So that's, I think, interesting, which I think I encourage many political scientists in Malaysia actually to explore further and so come up with your own model and theory to explain about Malaysian context. Okay, somehow in my lecture, there's a mentioning about in the topic is about COVID-19, which I have to also, explain. It's unprecedented that we have COVID-19. The only thing that I think Malaysia a bit lucky because we have huge experience in dealing with pandemic and also pandemics. We used to deal with SARS, chikungunya. These are so some of the viruses that spread in Malaysia previously, and also dengue. We still deal with dengue today. Dengue is a virus which has no vaccine. And when come COVID-19, even though it's very vicious, it's a very vicious virus, but Malaysia know how to deal with this because we got experience dealing with this kind of virus before. But the only thing is we can put a credit to a new government, Perikatan Nasional government, OPN government. When even though COVID-19 appeared in Malaysia during the previous government, Pakatan Harapan, but the new government, Perikatan Nasional, that deal totally with the partly lockdown that imposed in Malaysia in 18 March 2020, where you can give credit to Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, for example, as a Prime Minister, that accept the advice from the medical expert, the health expert, to impose some kind of semi-lockdown in Malaysia, because you can see other countries who suffer with COVID-19 when the politician disregard the opinion of health experts, like what happened in the US, UK, and several other countries. But Malaysia, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin accept the advice and and enforce the lockdown. So from there, we able to minimize the problem of COVID-19 in Malaysia, and at the same time as well somehow managed to lowering down the political hits that happened in Malaysia after the change of government, because the change of government is happened in 1st March 2020 when Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin took oath on that day, and on 18 March when we start to impose semi-lockdown in Malaysia. So and also credit also should be given also to opposition party who decided not to interfere in politics, let country deals with the COVID-19, and later on, months after that, then they start meaning that they start engage in politics with the current government, which I think still find food, what to perform and how to deal with not only COVID-19, which I think another important aspect as an effect of COVID-19 is our socio-economic situation right now. When our economy actually suffer because of that, Malaysia economy actually depending on foreign direct investment and also depending on oil price. Both suffer during the COVID-19. So I think Malaysia took an effort, to deal with ASEAN in the last ASEAN summit, for example. They encourage, trade, among ASEAN countries, particularly when it comes to the issue of food security, because we are importer of rice, for example, from Thailand and also particularly Vietnam. When COVID-19 happened, in March, all these countries stopped exporting to Malaysia, which we are scared. We are worried that engage with ASEAN and somehow able to bring back to a normality, at least kind of normality in trade when it comes to foods to Malaysia. So, but now Malaysia also imposed several other policy under protection Malaysian Perikatan effort, for example, stimulus package that given to the people, which makes actually Muhyiddin become popular among Malaysian. Even until today, in fact, he's more popular than his party probably, Bersatu, who facing a crisis. And yesterday, as we heard that Tun Dr. Mahathir, former chairman of Bersatu, plan to form a new party, which also I will explain later in my talk. So basically, COVID-19 is something, bring something bad to Malaysia, but somehow we able to this problem, even not fully effective, but at least managed to decrease any tragedy or catastrophe happen like what happen in other countries which are failed to deal significantly with this issue of virus COVID-19. But this, I think, is an effect which I think by next year, hopefully that this issue able to be settled. Hopefully with the discovery of vaccine. If not, I think we try our best. I think collaborate with World Health Organization and try to find the best mechanism to deal with this issue and make sure that we able to avoid many people in Malaysia to become victim of this virus. Okay, now I want to move slightly to look on the main each topic that we're going to cover for today. First, Malaysia's political impasse. Do you think that the current situation is because of what really happened just early this year, when you can see that change of government because of infighting within Pakatan Harapan's coalitions, or is something bigger happen and it's just a gradual development in the country that makes things happen like what we see today? Okay, in my view, this is probably my personal view, probably not subscribed by others, but my personal view, I think what really happened is because the society in Malaysia is changed. Why I can say that our society is changed? Actually, you have to trace on so many things that happened in the past that trigger the change in today's Malaysia. Okay, so at least just several things that I think that based on policy, which I think is so important, that change not only the thinking of Malaysians but also change the society as a whole. That trigger the bigger change in our political situation and also political system. First, a new economic policy started in second Malaysia plan in 1971, which I think is, even though there's many criticism because of issue of leakages, for example, come with the policy, but the policy is very good because it's tried to tackle in terms of equality in economic situation, arranging the society, and also to abolish poverty, or eradicate, or minimize the poverty in Malaysia. But new economic policy actually able to produce educated Malaysians, not only Malay, but also Malaysians, and at the same time also bring prosperity to Malaysia, and able to expand the number of middle class, people like lawyers, doctors, people like me, managed to be expanded into, according to, I think last data that I saw, I think published by World Bank in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, saying that Malaysia almost have about 60% of the population which under that category. So I think it's huge compared to other countries which are less than that. I think Indonesia just less than 20%. We are almost 60% or 60% already. So these people who are educated, they see politics in Malaysia, they want to bring change, to to Malaysia, because they see that, because they're exposed to many ideas around the world, so they see that they want to make Malaysia better by introducing several ideas that actually propagate as well democracy, freedoms, and also actually somehow they want to see a different Malaysia, which is more equal and also more acceptable and moving forward as well. Okay, this also not this idea actually was brought because of new economic policy, but later on also propagated through the vision that Malaysian government itself proposed, like Vision 2020, for example, in 1991. They actually propagate the idea. If you read all the principles or the pillars in the Vision 2020, you can see that it propagate the idea of more democratic Malaysia, more equal Malaysia, and also progress not only in economy but in socialism, in religion, and so on. So I think all these ideas come together, and Malaysian people buy the idea and also propagate for a better Malaysia. Another is like MSC Bill of Guarantees in 1996, 95 or 96, something like that. Produced by Mahathir when he was the fourth Prime Minister. This policy is still maintained until today. When we have free cyberspace, that actually ensure that there's no intervention of government meaning that online, even though we have policy, even though we have a law, for example, like Multimedia and Communication Act, example, but there's no restriction, meaning no restriction in any, for example, like political ideas or political discussion online, except for something like clearly against the law, which I think later on will be deal with the by the authority according to law that established Malaysia, not only through Multimedia and Communication Act but also through other acts as well, Sedition Act and so on. But at least this policy actually they produce citizen journalism, produce a lot of netizens which are very active online. Some might argue that they contribute to democratization in Malaysia, but yeah, some people argue that they bring more anarchy to Malaysia. But this is something that we can debate. But somehow this already changed Malaysia, make us more. Actually, it's helped as well opposition party when if we know that previously print media is so hostile toward opposition party. Pakatan Rakyat back then, even Barisan Alternatif before, but you can see that with the social media and online media, this medium can be used by opposition party to spread their ideas, and also somehow, that trigger the change of government happened in 2018 actually. Another is the incalculation of Islamic value, when you see why Malaysia is very Malay Islamic centric right now. When UMNO and Impasse also, you can see now there's no clear differentiation. We cannot differentiate now these two parties because they are almost propagating the same idea. Actually, it's all come from the Islamization policy that established in early 1980s, which makes the policy continue today. Even during Pakatan Harapan period, they also propagate somehow similar. Even though they're mentioning about something new, like not really new, but it's something that they call it Rahmatan lil Alamin, meaning that meaning the prosperity shared to all others as well. But they're also propagating almost similar, like what done by the previous government. So I think you can see that this policy already embedded into Malay society, Malay psyche, so on. Then I think they accept. So any political party that I think somehow divert from this kind of policy, then I think will be rejected by the Malay community. Okay, next is reformasi movement. This reformasi movement actually, even though seen as a supporting of Anwar, but actually is a more bigger movement that want to change Malaysia to become more democratic. So this process, I think, prolonged until today. You can see that the idea is still there. It started because of the society want to have change, in terms of changing the system in Malaysia. So based on what I mentioned here, you can see there's an expansion of middle class, individualism is there, but at the same time, so you can see there's a urban and rural divide. So urban is more central into their thinking and more reform centric, and also look on the based on needs. But in the rural seems that they are more right. Thinking about ethnic and race-based policy agenda. So this, I think, you can see there's a clash here right now in Malaysia. In looking about what to expect, and even political party, in order them to really maneuver, they have to think about this, strategy and this agenda in order for them to win support. So I don't know how this issue can be harmonized, but if you can see that this is also similar happen to other countries like Thailand, between red and yellow shirts. This also issue that being discussed in Thailand. Okay, now we look into the immediate political impasse. Whether we are now moving towards a deadlock in the political system, so on. Okay, what happened today also contributed by the result of GE14. I think we need to look back of the result of GE14. Probably many of you already know, but probably you also miss in looking on the data, because they actually determine why Pakatan Harapan cannot sustain. They are only able to be a government for only 22 months, then suddenly they crumble. I want to show you just some data. This is the result of the last general election. In terms of first, in terms of seat, I think you can see there the number of the seat. Pakatan plus Warisan 131, BN 79. GS is Gagasan Sejahtera, actually led by PAS. It's a third force, led by PAS. So you can see the number of popular vote there, and please see the percentage. So Pakatan Harapan only got 48% plus, BN 33% and 60%. Based on popular vote, actually, you can see that actually Pakatan didn't get, even didn't get the majority, like what Pakatan Rakyat had in GE13 in 2013. So actually Pakatan Rakyat is actually more acceptable, more stronger, and got the more support, popular support from the people rather than Perikatan Harapan. And if you combine Perikatan Nasional and so Gagasan Rakyat, actually they also can form the government already. But of course, if you look in the context of percentage, but of course, numbers, seats doesn't reflect the percentage. So, the marriage of convenience under Perikatan Harapan makes them, because they also never expect to win in election, and suddenly they won election. Then, and many of them also has, have no experience in government, so that's why they have difficulty to even to start. It takes months, for them to form a cabinet, members, then to form a policy, so on. But they have many agendas under their manifesto. When they want to propagate lots of reform, which I think sometimes also unrealistic to apply, but they did apply a few others, which they're able to apply within 22 months. For example, they abolished GST, reintroduce SST, some of the policy that they're able to bring. But what I want to say here is that they have no popular support. Okay, look on the other data. This is data in terms of performance of political party during the GE14. Okay, first I think could you look at the PKR, the Keadilan Party. They won 2,000 votes, sorry, 2 million votes with only 16.94% of the votes totally. And they managed to win 47 seats. Okay, this is Pakatan Harapan. please look on PAS. They almost equal to, equal to PKR, 2 million plus vote, 32,000 votes, with 16.82%, but they managed only to win 18 seats, So I know there's a reform proposed by Pakatan Harapan to change the system, electoral system, from first past the post that we practice today to proportional representation. That probably we plan to apply in Malaysia. I think if this apply, meaning PAS can win more seats in the parliament rather than the number of seats that they want now in Malaysia, So okay, with the combination of two, actually, PAS, UMNO, that's why, and also with the number of Malay vote, that they got. Okay, another thing that I want to show you, just go in the previous slide. Okay, Malay vote split, but PH, Pakatan Harapan only got 25 to 30% vote. So probably 70% of the vote of Malay goes to either PAS or Barisan Nasional. So that's why when Pakatan government took over, there's a concern among Malay. What kind of government that going to, what kind of policy, either policy is favor to them or not, There are so many concerns and so many debates on issue, in fact, almost all each topic, reform will be associated with issue of race during 22 months of Pakatan's government's, Pakatan Harapan's government, So, in that way, you can see that why you can see the rejection of Malay to the Pakatan Harapan, that makes the, Pakatan Harapan's government's, become weak, then later on collapse, But somehow, one thing which I think the significant things happen when the loss of Barisan Nasional in GE14 is that this is also the collapse of the system that established since independent, which is a system of Barisan Nasional, kind of modified constitutionalism that I mentioned earlier, or in Malay, politik pemufakatan. This is the concept that being applied. So Barisan Nasional already collapsed from 13 party, now becomes only 3. UMNO, MCA, and MIC. So and we look on the context of Perikatan Nasional is a more, Barisan Nasional is a small coalition, but there's a coalition under coalition, which is Perikatan Nasional. So what you can see is that the early arrangements of political party in Malaysia already collapsed. So even Pakatan Harapan want to replicate, copy the idea of Barisan Nasional, they also collapse. So that actually trigger many debates among scholars. What kind of model of political party that exists in Malaysia right now. So that's why that bring uncertainty, which I think we will explore later. So I think you can see during this period, you can see the rejection of reform, or Pakatan Harapan reform, which I think sounds very good, also being rejected. And in fighting and the collapse of Pakatan Harapan, not only inter-party within Pakatan, but also intra-party. There's Azmin Ali factions within PKR, and the rivalry between Tun Mahathir and also Taslim Muhyiddin Yassin. Actually, I started to hear about this since I think November last year or December last year, about this bickering within Bersatu. So you can see that this trigger trigger the collapse of Pakatan Harapan and also makes Bersatu left, betul, and the sudden resignation of Tun Mahathir. This also something shocking even to me. I still don't understand why Tun Mahathir resigned. In fact, I think few people, for example, Wan Saiful, Wan Jan already published an article explaining about this. I also did ask few close friends of Tun Mahathir, what's really happened. So the only person that can explain this, Mahathir, he explained this, even though difficult to understand him. Somebody who very experienced as a prime minister, easily can resign, which bring the collapse of Pakatan Harapan, and now lost power, and you want to come back, make a third comeback into government. So I think it's something very weird, awkward happen something in Malaysia. I think later on probably we will know what's really trigger the decision of Tun Mahathir to resign. But actually, if he's decided not to resign, I think probably until today Pakatan Harapan still in government. There's no Perikatan National government. Okay, next is a two coalition system is non-existent at all. We always talk about the best system to bring stability in democracy must be a two coalition system or even two party system. But in Malaysia, when we have two coalition system which are strong, Barisan Nasional and Pakatan Harapan, then suddenly when Barisan Nasional lost, and it bring the collapse actually of Barisan Nasional. And Pakatan Harapan tried to copy the model of Barisan Nasional, later also collapsed because one of their partners left. So now we live with, we're not sure yet. Perikatan Nasional is not really a fully officially formed coalition. It's just they collaborate together just to form a government. They will last longer. Probably we also contest in the next election. It's subject to how they can compromise and also accommodate each other, to form coalitions. Pakatan Harapan, I think, under Anwar Ibrahim leadership, Amanah and also, DAP probably I think we follow Anwar. But somehow they also have close relation with Tun Mahathir. But Tun Mahathir is going to form a third force, which I think I will discuss later. Okay, just to move a bit, Okay, this is a question that I've been asked so many times. Is General GE 15 around the corner? My answer straight away, no. Because there are many things happen lately, which I don't think it will happen very soon. As we know that, to call for election is the PM or Prime Minister prerogative. He will decide when to call election, and of course he will decide when he thinks he can win the election. If not, then probably he will take time to strengthen himself, then later on call for election, which until the mandate is still there until 2023. And when I look on the EC Electoral Commission, they are also not ready. They are preparing right now. In fact, at the same time, so they have to prepare for Slim by election and also Sabah state election, which I think very soon this year as well. So I think their job to prepare for general election being distracted with these two election. So I think they need time to prepare themselves. And COVID-19 still there. We hope that we not to come to the second or third wave. But somehow we cannot eradicate totally yet, COVID-19, which I think still need to consider and to prepare for this, which I think also makes us think that probably next year is best if we want to have elections when hopefully COVID-19 becomes less as problematic for Malaysian society to deal. And economic difficulty, as we know that soon Malaysia government also will table in the parliament the budget, and so we also still have the economic difficulties. We depending so much in our domestic investment, to generate our economy, because less now our engagement with foreign partner, everything because of uncertainty also abroad, also issue COVID-19 that they deal as well. So makes them I think is best for government now to focus on dealing with economic first rather than to think of about to have an elections. And when it comes to political party preparations, I observe almost all political party and they also deal with same issue. Mostly they are thinking about finance in terms of their finance, their funding financially, whether they enough funding for elections. They also try to strengthen their missionaries. Some party struggle, to have enough missionaries, to support the missionaries for the elections, So meaning that they probably want more time to prepare for that. Candidacy, I think they have yet to decide, As we know that UMNO and Impasse now in communications, meetings to finalize their candidates for election, but where to put Bersatu, members and also supporters as well, how in terms of candidacy for the Bersatu party, how the arrangement with Perikatan Nasional, so I think all this arrangement need to be going through first, once they're ready, I think that we can call for the election. Okay, PN can rule Malaysia as long as they want until they think that they can win the general election. I think if they think, Perikatan Nasional knows that they can win the elections. But the only thing is the concern is that how the arrangement that they're going to form. Because now there are many debates within the party, particularly UMNO, who somehow reject Bersatu, cannot accept Bersatu, but some can accommodate, In fact, there are two factions now in UMNO, one want to leave, Perikatan Nasional to form, coalition only with Perikatan Nasional, but Perikatan Nasional also alone cannot win election. They need a bigger partner. So, but some in UMNO wants to collaborate, with Bersatu and also other groups in order to make more stronger Perikatan Nasional, to have a stronger mandates. So this is, I think, dilemma, also debates going on now. If they're able to compromise, then I think they can have a strong coalition to win the elections. Okay, just to fasten a bit, what would happen in GE15? This is probably based on my observations. For me, Bersatu wants to be dominant, but UMNO has the strength right now as a dominant party. So UMNO won't join Perikatan Nasional, but it does not mean that it cannot share the candidacy and forming a coalition with Bersatu. If that's the only way to win the general election, I think they have become more and more rational after this. If they think that by having a more coalitions partner is better, I think they will do that in order for win to secure more seat and win the next election. And the other thing is that Taslim Muhyiddin Nasir is very popular, and also many also thinks that he's the one should lead the coalition. Why need somebody from UMNO? There's also debate. In fact, PAS also very accommodate to the idea that Taslim Muhyiddin will lead the next general election for Perikatan Nasional. So I think this need to talk through by Perikatan Nasional in order for them to make sure because Taslim Muhyiddin can be seen as a unifying force within the Perikatan Nasional. Okay, like I mentioned just now, Perikatan Nasional alone cannot guarantee PAS and Bersatu win. Azmin faction, I think sooner or later will join Bersatu. I don't think they will establish a new party, but it could be if the time is there, 1 or 2 more years before the next election. But if we're thinking about next year is going to be the election, I think Azmin rather stay in Bersatu rather than form a new party, which I think could be struggle to appeal to the people when there are too many parties now in Malaysia. Okay, possibility there's a pre-election arrangement for GE15 with a separate logo. I think they will contest separately, but not against each other. There's no official coalition, but they form an official coalition together, pre-election. And however, the problem is that in the post-election, there's a tendency also to split, because there's a really official arrangement. Then probably in the post-election is going to be split if if you can see hung parliament happen or hung state assembly happen, then you can see probably new arrangement happen with other political party in the opposition. This something is normal in any democracy, but in Malaysia, I think probably Malaysian government also even political party try to avoid. But somehow this will become new reality for Malaysian politics. Okay, Perikatan Nasional knows that it has a good chance to win a general election. I think they know, but the only thing they need to come up with the best formula for them to win the election. What about Pakatan Harapan? I think they will find a way to collaborate PKR, DAP, and Amanah because they have long history together. I don't think they will take different stands, system themselves, I think they will collaborate together. Probably they will contest a different logo, not using Pakatan Harapan logo, different logo, but not against each other, But they know that the non-Malay, the urbanites actually supporting that. What they want to do is now to appeal to the young voters by probably putting many, young candidates for the election. As we know that young candidates can appeal to the young voters, So that's actually probably their own idea and agendas, And another thing is they know the three of this party they cannot win the election, so they need to collaborate with other political party like in Sabah, Sarawak, probably Warisan or any other political party to form a more stronger coalition. And the most important thing actually they need to appeal to the Malay party or to the Malay, meaning that the agenda need to somehow propagate, supporting the Malay agendas, because if not, then I think the Malay will distance them because the Malay already have different choices. There many choices that they can choose from Perikatan Nasional and also probably other parties like Tun Mahathir who are going to also introduce a new party. So PH also need to see themselves to appeal to the Malay voters as well. So I think this is something I want to see what really their arrangement within Pakatan Harapan in order to appeal to the Malay voters. Okay, Tun Mahathir's party only announced yesterday. I'm also not sure what kind of party that will be introduced. But what I can see is that it's going to be a third force, like Gagasan Sejahtera or PAS did in GE14. So Tun Mahathir party is going to be a Malay-based party, appealing to the Malay and try to get support for the Malay. So with the, now we have Malay party from PN, Perikatan Nasional, from Pakatan Harapan. Now we have another Malay party. It's going to be a three-corner fight, like similar happened in the last generation. I think that could be happening. And of course, as the third force, the third strongest party, Tun Mahathir hope probably to become kingmaker in deciding, his party deciding who form a government. So I think probably that's the idea behind the establishment of this party. But I still want more information actually to see how the direction of this party and how it can perform and how it can really lure people, to support this new party. But somehow rather, I would say that don't disregard Tun Mahathir and so his leaders who support him, because they have huge experience, huge support from business community, for example, and I think and Tun Mahathir as a seasonal leaders have many strategies to really penetrate into the political system and also make himself win in those situations. So that's why I think very interesting to observe what this party will bring to the Malaysian people when it comes to GE15. Okay, in conclusion is that new norms come with a new reality. What happened now is that even though we can see that the government has a small majority, but what we, for example, like me who study international relations, I observe many things happen in other countries. They can last for quite some time, with the small majority. In fact, Belgium also, for example, one of the country, when you see there's no government for quite some time, later on, then they have government, in fact. But with the small majority, they have enough majority allowed by the constitution, allowed by the system, then I think they can continue to use that mandate with a small majority to really rule the countries, according to what they plan. Okay, the only thing is there's no major national policy yet, like what others government like Perikatan Nasional with transformation plan before during Najib Tun Razak period. Under Pakatan Harapan they have shared prosperity visions, but Perikatan Nasional so far they they don't have a national policy, which I think now is best time for them to construct a new policy so people can evaluate their performance as a government later on. And all political factions try to strengthen themselves in preparing for generation, try to avoid making blunders which make people angry, against them. And the most prepared party with the excellent strategy will win the election. That's my point of view. Political dynamics during the election will determine who will win the election. The fluidity of political dynamics in Malaysia make it difficult to predict who will win the elections. For political party, they have to dominate their political dynamics. So this, I think, normally will be determined during the elections. Normally, it's earlier than that. But the only thing is because now we can see the political arrangement within political party also very uncertain. It can shift quickly, it can change quickly, so makes the dynamic also very fluid. So normally what we can see going to happen, or what kind of government going to be produced after the election is depending on the arrangements during the elections. Because I also don't know when the elections is going to be, but that's dynamic, which I think will give significant impact to what kind of government is going to perform or going to establish. Because this, I think, will determine the last point that I want to raise here. There is a possibility that coalition party fail to emerge before GE50. Why I can say that suddenly there's no coalition existed before election because every political party will contest using their own logo. So meaning that if they win the election, actually they can rearrange what kind of coalition that they're going to establish after the election. So I can see this happen. I can see that it's going to be a multi-party elections, unlike 2 coalition or 3 coalition system that exists in the last generation, but it's going to be a multi-party election when the coalition or the government will be formed only after the elections. So why this thing could happen? There's a possibility to this to happen is because of the collapse of coalition system under Perikatan Nasional and Pakatan Harapan. So and I'm not sure whether this also can be acceptable to the people, because sometimes people just want to vote. They have choice to vote, then they vote for the elections. In the elections, and what form later is something will be determined after the election. So I think if the arrangement, political arrangement under Perikatan Nasional now fail, or even Pakatan Harapan also fail, you can see that it's going to be a multi-party election where the coalition only can be formed only after general election. So yeah, this I think in the reality of the current situation in Malaysia, this is probably just my point of view that I want to say here. Then I also open for debates. Probably you have different point of view. Then for me as a political scientist, I think it's very interesting now to observe and also to understand. And one thing which is I think want to highlight as well. The last point I want to highlight is that whatever happened in Malaysia, even though we can see uncertainty in the government, whatever, in the parliaments, but Malaysia is still stable. That's I think very unique. I think if this happen in other countries, there's instability going to happen. Probably, fighting, probably engage in armed struggle, among ethnic community in other countries. But in Malaysia, no. This I think is very unique and also difficult to explain with many political theories that existed today, which I think require us political scientists and many others who are interested on this topic to explore and study further in order to understand why this thing happened and to see and to project what's happened in the future. So by that, I think I want to end my presentation. I give back to you, Osman, and hopefully we can have a fruitful Q&A after this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Azizuddin, for this immensely interesting, detailed, and highly valuable and important explanation and analysis. I understand that probably the listeners and viewers in Malaysia understand details and intricacies of Malaysian politics. However, the viewers and listeners from different countries will probably find Malaysian political landscape highly complex to discern and to understand all the dynamics and forces at play in this. So I think this is extremely important that you explained it. It's in so much detail. I will just recap a few things that you mentioned for our viewers. You mentioned at the beginning that the Western theories cannot be applied outrightly to Malaysia. So this is a very interesting and important point, which you also elaborated. You also mentioned that ideology or political ideology, which applies in some other polities around the world, is increasingly less relevant in Malaysia, and that politics is built around interest and different issues concerning voters and people in general, characterized by more pragmatism, as you mentioned. So you also mentioned, which is quite interesting for me as well, as a keen student of international relations and Southeast Asia and Malaysia in particular, that the new Perikatan Nasional government has demonstrated effectiveness in dealing with the Covid-19 crisis, which is quite interesting. And also you mentioned that the economic issues that Malaysia is currently facing are very central to the support that the new government receives from the people. Interestingly, you were saying that the Malaysian society has dramatically changed. So if I may start there, can we talk about if you can just elaborate a little bit more on that? Are we safe to assume that Malaysia is indeed a new Malaysia? Because after 61 years of stable government in the past, which was UMNO-led Perikatan Nasional Front, obviously including many other parties, but leading party UMNO, United Malay National Organization, there was a kind of predictability. And obviously that was quite important for the development of Malaysia. And then 2 years ago, when Malaysians enthusiastically embraced the Pakatan Harapan government of 4 parties, which are very diverse, have different ideologies and different goals, I would say, that are sometimes conflicting. Do you, can we say that this is now a new Malaysia, and what does that term encompass? What does it mean to have a new Malaysia? Because is it a new Malaysia under the Pakatan Harapan, or is this a new Malaysia, which is a new concept of coalition building? If you can elaborate a little bit further on this, I would really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you very much, Osman, for your brief, mentioning about to cover some of my topics that I discussed just now, and also when it comes to the question that you asked me, I think that the debates about new Malaysia actually started with the debates about new politics. I think since the GE12, 2008, there's a lot of discussion about the emerging of new politics, where and the debate actually, even I also wrote one articles, published in Taiwan Journal of Democracy, that discuss about what kind of new politics that emerged in Malaysia during that period, in the last decade. So what I can see is that I mentioned also in my talk just now, which I think triggered through the reformasi movement, who wants change in the system, political system, which is more democratic, more transparency, try to combat corruption, for example, graft, So and it became a social movement through reformasi movement. And this reformasi movement also trigger. Anwar Ibrahim is just an icon to that, but actually it's triggered through the society, which is particularly the middle class and also the netizens online. So they use this mechanism to really propagating. And from time to time, this idea become acceptance, receive acceptance from the people, because if you notice, even the Malaysian society, according to our Malaysian statistical department, the number of urbanites, people who live in the urbans, also quite astonishingly high, more than 70% in Malaysia. Of course, when it comes to vote, they vote in rural area, in kampong, but they actually part of the product actually of new economic policies on. So, and these people actually trigger and want a new politics in Malaysia, and somehow supporting Pakatan Rakyat before, Pakatan Rakyat, and help the opposition to become a strong opposition against Barisan Nasional. And Barisan Nasional actually struggle to even produce few policy which is more more meaning that they try to bring openness to the society. For example, like Abdul Ahmad Badawi, through Islam Hadari, I think if you have listened before, and also through his agenda to somehow accommodate more freedom given to the people. In fact, I think during actually DAP only as a party only got coverage on the Malaysian media is during Abdullah Ahmad Badawi's period as a prime minister. So Abdullah Ahmad Badawi realized that people already changed and he wants to accommodate. Like what happened to, for example, in China during Deng Xiaoping, after the Tiananmen Square massacre, when people, Deng Xiaoping knows country already, people already changed. So he tried to accommodate what the people's need. So that's Abdullah Ahmad Badawi is trying to do. But there's a resistance within UMNO for that change because they worry that they're going to lose the power if the leaders change the system. And when Najib took over from Abdullah Ahmad Badawi, Najib as well. Okay, Najib, in order to study about Najib's period as a prime minister, you need to divide into two periods. First period from 2009 until 2013, where he really, embraced, openness in the system. When he produced One Malaysia Agenda, Transformation Plan, NKRA, so many good policy actually for the countries, And he actually the one who abolished the Internal Secret Act, ISA, emergency ordinance, and amended the several others called draconian law back then. The only thing is, the resistance is strong, against Najib, and the people seems that whatever policy brought by Najib doesn't receive well by the people back then. So that's why Pakatan Rakyat so popular, because Pakatan Rakyat somehow Anwar Ibrahim's very good, in projecting the agenda of Pakatan back then, and also Anwar also brought the idea of new politics to Malaysia, but somehow cannot defeat Barisan Nasional. They're able to win the popular vote, but cannot defeat Perikatan Nasional. So that's why Najib, since 2013 until 2018, he changed approach to more Malay centric, Malay Islamic centric, policy which are more conservative in approach. And he also close to PAS during that period, even though previously PAS very close to Anwar Ibrahim. So it changed the landscape of politics. And suddenly, there's some fighting within UMNO as well with Tun Mahathir. That's why Tun Mahathir left, formed Bersatu and collaborate with Anwar. Then you know the story. They managed to defeat Malaysian national government. So when Pakatan Harapan won the elections, in 2018, they come up with the idea that now is the era of Malay, a new Malaysia baru. Okay, one interesting is that based on my study, nothing much actually different compared to the previous government. Probably because they're still new, they need times to really reform. They have reform agenda, but somehow they cannot reform fully because some of the reform that they try to propagate actually will take time. Some reform which they call it low-hanging fruit, meaning that easily they can reform, also fail to get through. For example, like when they want to ratify ICET, for example, International Convention on Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and also Rome Statute, the ICC, International Criminal Court, failed to be ratified by the Malaysian government because there's a resistance from the Malay group in that movement. So all the actually reform that they're going to produce, if they're able to successfully implement, I think that we can see a new Malaysia. So far, they failed to reform. The only thing that they're able to reform when it comes to, for example, like electoral reform that they projected is undi 18, meaning the age of 18, nation can vote for election. That I think they will just wait until the law become being gazetted in the parliament. So by saying that now is a new Malaysia, for me it's not yet, because there's a resistance from the old Malaysia against the new Malaysia idea. But this I think we're going through even until the next general elections, But the resistance I think contributed because of, like I also mentioned in my talk, there's an urban and also rural divide in the society, and also suspicious between races that still exists. Malay to Chinese, Chinese to Malay, and also people in Sabah and Sarawak also demanding autonomy, whatever. So all these dynamics actually contribute to the current situation, what really happened in Malaysia. So for me, New Malaysia is not yet there, but it will take time actually. Probably not the next election, probably several other terms, probably next 2 elections in order to see the real reform able to produce in Malaysia. So probably that's my very lengthy answer to your questions.
Thank you, Professor Azizuddin, for this elaborate explanation. And if I just can ask one more question, and then we receiving some questions from our viewers. But before that, just one more question for you from my part. In the past, Malaysian politics was quite characterized by a rivalry between UMNO and PAS, Parti Islam Se Malaysia, and the central topic was the relevance of Islam in politics and society in Malaysia. Does that mean that now with new developments and the coalition between the two parties, that Islam is becoming less relevant in a political sense in this debate, or it's still continuing to be an important feature of Malaysian, or more so Malay politics?
I think Islam and also religion has always relevant in nations' politics. Because the only thing is what kind of Islam, what kind of approach of political Islam, that being presented to the Malaysian people. Because previously, yes, like what you say, we only know the rivalry between these two parties, UMNO and PAS. in fact, the idea to produce the inculcation of Islamic value that I mentioned earlier also is the idea that to Islamize UMNO, Islamize the system, bring Islamization policy into the into the bureaucracies, and at the same time to counter the same also movement ideas coming from past back then, So that's why one example I can give you, for example, like when Tun Mahathir, for example, saying that Malaysia is an Islamic state, for example, that idea actually just to counter the idea of Islamic states from past, who wants to change Malaysia and change the legal system according to their perspective. But interestingly, when now they are in power together in the government of Perikatan Nasional, when people asking about hudud, whether is it possible to produce hudud right now, they also a bit reluctant to mention, and they say that it can take time, So almost I think similar to the Amanah also approach before, when in the Pakistan government saying that it can take time, when people are ready, then are ready and also can be applied. So in that way, you can see is that yes, there's a skepticism when talk about Islam, because then you can see that there's no difference. Whoever in government, similar things happen, similar way to apply happen, and what's new? Nothing new to the issues. And but I think even I think even in Pakistan Harapan also the government now, so they also have difficulty to show that how they can appeal to the people, particularly Muslim, when they have almost similar agenda together, nothing much different. So that's why you can see that among the Malay now Muslim, they're not seeing Islam, even though Islam always relevant for me, but they not see Islam is the thing that issue by the political party that they're going to support because that politics come bring certain types of Islamic agenda, but they always thinks that they only follow leaders. So the problem in Malaysia is now not only Malays, but also other groups as well. They tend to follow more leaders, believe on the elites, rather than the agenda brought or the policy brought by the elites. So even though that's the situation, of course, in order to win the elections, all political party, particularly the Malay-based political party, including PKR as well, even though it's multiracial party, but PKR has a significant number of Malay, party members who are also dominant in the party. So they have to, propagate on the issue of Islam, in order to appeal, to the people for the support. So that's why I think Islam will be used, in the elections, and also they will counter argument with other groups, saying that they are not Islamic, we are more Islamic. That's why what the debates now, when suddenly one party accuse other party is kafir, and other party accuse also kafir. So this is not healthy actually in Malaysia. But somehow this is a reality that happened today, when easily Islam can be used to sideline people, or even to challenge other groups, in order for them to maintain the status quo. So yeah, for me, I think Islam will continue. Difficult to see differences now between even UMNO and PAS, almost similar group. In fact, I used to say that why not they combine together, form one party together. But of course, it's not the idea well accepted by them, because they always think about the tradition of the party, that because they have long tradition, it's difficult for them to merge together. But back to your question, I think Islam always there and be used, and they try to because Muslim actually now even live in urban, they are very cautious in religion, in Islam. So that's why I think whoever bring the best argument, best idea about how to bring progress to Islam and to Muslims, and I think those parties will be receive support from most of the majority of the people in Malaysia.
Thank you, Professor Azizuddin, for this elaborate answer. Can we now move to, we've got a few questions and the time is running out. So if I may ask you just to briefly, if you can answer these questions. One of the questions that we have is from Dr. Sharifa Munira Alatas, who is a distinguished professor as well. She's asking about the Malaysian or Malay racial politics. I'll just summarize. Do you think that the debate is too much centered on internal racial politicking, whilst there is a significant and quite dangerous development in the region in terms of international affairs, especially in South China Sea relations with China? The question is about what do Malaysian political leaders are doing currently to address this crisis that is happening in Malaysian backyard. I think it's a quite sensitive, it's a very important issue, and obviously you're an expert on international relations, so if you can address that as well for us.
Okay, one thing I can see is that, you know, when it comes to foreign policy, the approach that Malaysian government try to bring, you know, which is really actually state-centric, meaning that they never quite, you know, rarely discuss foreign policy or, you know, international relations with the populations. So that's why in Malaysia actually they know better about Malaysian politics rather than what happened around the region, for example. You know, so but this we cannot say that, you know, somehow Malaysian government just disregard what really happened in the neighboring areas. You know, particularly when it comes to issue of South China Sea. Yes, I think the most concern for the government right now, I think, based on my observation, is the stability in the government. They want to perform, to show that they can perform, you know, and bring prosperity to the people. And the main issue right now, besides COVID-19, is how to tackle the issue of economy in Malaysia. Yes, I think that's the main agenda. But at the same time as well, I think they know, you know, the effect of the international politics and also regional politics happen around the world, particularly around Southeast Asia or South China Sea. For example, in the particular case that you mentioned, is like South China Sea issue. Then we know that China try to claim, you know, the whole area of South China Sea is belong to them, and there's also you know, overlap with many claimants as well, like Malaysia, Philippines, you know, Brunei, Vietnam, you know, on those areas. So, and there's also skirmishes in those areas between Chinese vessel, you know, with Malaysia and also the interstate and so on. Just as a country, we have to raise this concern to, for example, like the international, to the world, to the international community, saying that China cannot behave like that in dealing with the issue of South China Sea, even though we realize that we also depending on China on economy, for example, because China is the biggest you know, trade partner for Malaysia now. So, and Malaysia alone also cannot deal with China because Malaysia is a very small country. We need to have a group of countries, particularly ASEAN, together to deal with China. And ASEAN as well, as we know that, you know, is a unit, but it's a very weak unit. And collaborate together on certain issues. And when it comes to China, I think they also some have a bit reluctant to confront with China. For example, like Cambodia, who depending their economy with China, Myanmar with China, you know, a bit reluctant to confront with China. But other countries probably can confront with China. But the only thing is that United States, you know, have a presence in South China Sea that help to become a buffer, you know, meaning that can become, because, you know, United States also try to impose their right for navigation around the South China Sea. They don't want suddenly China ask them to you know, permissions, you know, to pass South China Sea, you know. So somehow US is there, you know, and for me, I think as a, you know, Malaysia as a small country need to deal, collaborate with other countries within ASEAN, also US and other countries as well, to pressure China to not really show their might over the area. So this effort, I think, is an effort of a multilateral effort. It cannot be a unilateral effort by only Malaysia. So that's why I think from the time Malaysia will raise the concern with our international committee to deal with the issue. So I think whatever issue which going to involve our sovereignty, I think Malaysian government must deal with the issue very seriously. So that's probably my point of view.
Thank you, Professor Azizuddin. Next question is related to the role of culture in Malaysian politics. You mentioned in your presentation that despite all these political developments and different agendas and different phases of Malaysian political development, Malaysia still remained a relatively stable country, which is one of the most important things for economy and society and coexistence of different races and ethnicities. Is that to do with the Malaysian culture that, for instance, there was no conflict like we are witnessing what's happening in different Middle Eastern countries in the Arab world? Is it specifically to do with the Malaysian culture?
Okay, I had this kind of debate before, because my argument saying that why Malaysia is very stable because of our culture. We don't have culture of violence in the society, because when we got independence, we got independence through negotiations rather than engage to war with the British. So like Indonesia, for example, or several other countries. So this culture actually evolved until today, which makes violence is not an option in Malaysia. Okay, but some scholar, for example, like Professor Samsul Amri Baharudin, did argue otherwise. For example, he said that not all, he disagreed with my point of view, saying that because in Malaysia there are mechanisms to deal with violence. For example, like we don't have culture, guns culture in Malaysia. So in order to own gun, for example, you need to apply for permit, and it's so difficult to get a permit as well. So gun culture is not there, and we have law that actually prevent people from to seek for violence. For example, last time we have ISA, but ISA being abolished, but now we have several other law, like terrorism law, POTA, for example, SOSMA, and we have Sedition Act that try to curb any elements of insightful towards crimes or hatred against other religions and so on. So I mean that we have law that can curb the behavior of people towards violence. Okay, what I can say, another thing I think point which I think very important to raise, which I think why other countries suffer from violence, ethnic violence, I would say, because minority doesn't get enough recognition, in other countries. For example, in the case of Philippines, for example, the Moros, doesn't get recognition as a bangsa Moro, so they've been suppressed. Only lately, when peaceful situation happened in the south, in Mindanao, when bangsa Moro being recognized. So in Malaysia, you can say that the minority, being recognized. Chinese, they have vernacular schools, Chinese schools. Indian also being recognized. And they also willing, Chinese, for example, willing to sacrifice their wealth as well for better other Malaysian. For example, when it comes to, even though they're a bit, disappointed with new economic policy, because new economic policy favor more to the engineers, the Bumiputras, so on. But somehow they're willing to share their wealth with the others, So you can see that in the context of Malaysia, there's a harmony in terms of I'm willing to give and take, within the community themselves. Even though currently there's a group of people who try to question of many things, for example, like vernacular schools should be there, or raise the issue of contract social, social contract, which I think what mentioned in the constitution is really a contract social among the people, so on. So for me, to answer your question, it's not only culture that it's not there, culture of violence is not there, but other mechanism that established in Malaysia which make that violence is not the option. So always a peaceful peaceful solution can be can be brought into the table, to deal with all these racial or ethnic issue. So that's why we can see that, example like, in Malaysia, election is still the best option to change power, rather than go for rioting, or for violence on. So that's, I think, makes the culture of Malaysia a bit unique because of the mechanisms that established by the countries.
Yes, thank you, Professor. So there is obviously too much at stake to be lost if Malaysians are to abandon this agreement. One question for you is related to, and I'll read it to you. As you suggest, Malay Muslim-centric politics. So there is obviously the perception that the Malaysian politics is a Malay Muslim-centric. And that's common in Malay-led mainstream across both sides of political divide, both coalitions or a third coalition. The lack of ideological and policy differentiation. In short, policies in this country is the policies of personalities and self-interest. In such circumstances, the reforms process stalled. So does that cause the political reform process to stall? Where will this lead Malaysia in terms of gross domestic product growth, income distribution, and human development? So there are a few questions here, but if you can just briefly address this as well.
Okay. When it comes to Malay Muslim agenda right now, there's a concern among people, and even many also accuse that the current government, Perikatan Nasional government, is a Malay, Malay Islam's government rather than a Malaysian's government, because quite a significant numbers of member of parliament who form the government actually from the Malay Muslim. Very small number of them from either East Malaysia, Sabah, Sarawak, or even the non-Muslim. So there's a concern. But I think Perikatan Nasional, even though they definitely will propagate policy agenda that will serve the interest of Malay Muslim, but somehow in order for them to face the election, for example, they realize that they need to become Malaysian centric rather than Malay Muslim centric, because they know that even though now they can form a government, but it won't guarantee them to form a government after these elections. Like I mentioned to you in my presentation, Malay, Mufakat Nasional, Impasse, and also UMNO. These two parties alone, cannot form a government. They require another group of parties, that to form government. Those parties must be a multiracial parties, or multiracial coalitions, in order to form a government. So, in order to appeal to the other groups, other ethnic groups, they need to bring a more Malaysian-centric agenda on the table. So, in order to please them, and so on. So, okay, for example, the issue of dealing with issue of economy, for example. Why they helping, for example, the Malay who also suffer during the COVID-19 pandemic right now, they also need to realize that they need to support also or bring economic opportunity, for example, the other group, the Chinese, Indian, for example, in the context of Malaysia. So that I think in their mind right now, the only thing is how they're able to produce and to bring trust to the non-Malay who still have a suspicious that they really want to protect them rather than to protect only the majority. So that's, I think, the dilemma of them. But let's see how they appeal to the nations. But when it comes to personality that you mentioned just now, yes, suddenly it become more a personality over reform and other things, which are, I think just to trace Chandra Muzaffar's, point of view regarding, neo-feudalistic psychology, saying that Malaysian actually, they have tendency to follow certain leaders. Even I also mentioned in my talk. So they see Mahathir as an icon that they follow. Now Muhyiddin is a prime minister, new minister, and they will follow Muhyiddin as long as Muhyiddin can be seen please them and so serve their interests and so on. But this makes political party also become less relevant right now. Icon is more relevant. Similarly, in past as well, you can see Hadi Awang is so prominent in past. So you see that everybody must keep a wall or loyal to him rather than the party. So Anwar Ibrahim, another figure. So you can see that it's determined all by the leader, which I think is not it should not be like that. It should be based on policy. What policy that brought by this political party and also by this leader. So if the policy is suitable to be implemented in Malaysia and also bring prosperity to Malaysia, and I think that's the policy should be supported, and also those parties should be supported by the people. So, but in Malaysia is somehow, which I think also very unique, because there's not ideology based. Sometimes also not based on policy much, but based on following certain political party and loyalty to the political party and also the leader themselves. So how we overcome this also, that require debates among us to see on this matter. Yeah.
So you're saying that basically the personalities of particular leaders feature prominently, yes, as opposed to policies. One next question for you, Professor, is the role of monarchy in the current, in the recent conflict between Tun Dr. Mahathir and the current Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin, and the subsequent appointment or support by the monarchy to the current Prime Minister. Does that reflect the divisions between Malays or Malaysians in terms of support of the monarchy, and what's your view on that?
Okay, when there's a change of government, when Tun Mahathir resigned, as Prime Minister in late February, so somehow suddenly we don't have government at all, in Malaysia. So it raised an anxiety among all Malaysians, what going to happen in Malaysia for I think more than a week during that period. The only thing is makes Malaysia still function as a government is because of the monarchy and also the Agong, and also the bureaucracy that still give their service, and also run the country basically. So only the policymaker is not there because there's no government. Because of the situation and how the Agong, Tunku Abdullah, deal with the situation, even try to establish a government by calling all and interview one by one all the MPs, 222 MPs, Actually, it really raised up the confidence of people for the monarchy, which is previously probably we see monarchy is just like a rubber stamp, only function in the ceremonial session, whatever. But now we can see that there's the true role of monarchy, and actually monarchy can balance the system when suddenly no government, when the government's collapse. So now people I think more embrace the monarchy, see their role is important, and I think and it's actually it helped actually to boost the confidence of people with the system rather than with the government, because government can change. So right now, I think people will think that government can change, but whatever happened, we have experience when we have no government, but government is still there, run as usual, because we have monarchy and also we have bureaucrats that run the government. So when it comes to this, I think we now Malaysian more appreciative, towards the role played by the monarchy in deciding who who be in the government and so on. So I think monarchy is always there, and we balance the system, and of course the good thing as well. There's no tendency from the monarchy to become absolute monarchy in Malaysia. They still maintain according to the constitutions their role. As long as also they perform their duty according to the constitution, I think it will help as well to strengthen the system in Malaysia. What we want now is only a stable government. We have strong majority, which I think can rule Malaysia, properly. So that's something that probably people wants to look. Now I don't think people worry so much about monarchy because monarchy can help to balance the system.
So basically, you're saying that the recent events affirms the role of monarchy in making Malaysia more stable, which is quite interesting. Another question for you, Professor, is do you think that the conditions are arriving or are ripening for some external or a combination of forces that will make policies that are based on race and religion in Malaysia will no longer be affordable? How do you
mean
see
external forces?
Exactly, yeah.
From abroad,
or a combination of forces which will make race and religion less affordable for Malaysian stability. And
I don't know. It's subject to what kind of probably intervention from abroad. Because as we know that the dynamics of politics in any countries not only determined by the domestic dynamic, but also by the dynamic abroad, which also can influence any decision from even policy of the countries, which I think makes those policy more prevalent rather than policy of something like issue of ethnicity of race, like you mentioned just now. Okay, I'll give you an example. For example, China, for example, as you know, is very influential right now, and also we now have to deal with China because they is our main investor and trade partner with Malaysia. Of course, somehow we have to, not showing we are hostile towards them. Always want to, to be friend with them and so help them, assist them in investment, whatever. When it comes to G2G, government to government's dealing. So, but at the same time, also we cannot disregard as well US, which always become our partner. So that's why Malaysia is, if I want to say Malaysia, what kind of position that Malaysia want to put right now, is Malaysia, when it comes to international relations, we want to become a middle power, to become a voice of the people in the international community, but at the same time as well, not to take sides with any factions that exist in the world today. For example, in the case of trade war with the US-China, we don't want to take sides with either of the country. Okay, having said that, there's a concern before, when it comes to KL summit, for example, when you can see that suddenly Tun Mahathir, raised concern about, sanctions happen to, Iran, for example, it seems that Malaysia is going to become, rival, even become hostile towards Saudi Arabia, as we know that there's a geopolitical dynamic happen in the Middle East with regard to Saudis and also Iran factions, and comes Turkey as well, how we also close to Turkey during the Perikatan Harapan period, So I don't know. I'm not sure how this current dynamics going on. Seems that during Perikatan Harapan period, Malaysia is very close to Iran rather than, for example, like to Saudis. But now I'm not sure what kind of situations when it comes to relation Malaysia with Middle Eastern countries. But I can see that we have problem in relation with Saudis before during Perikatan Harapan, but now we try to somehow to bring a close back relation with Saudis. And when it comes to Iran, I don't think how approach we will do But Malaysia, I think we try to find the middle way to deal all this situation in order not to jeopardize relation between Malaysia with all this country, including also Turkey, which I think continue to be close friends to Malaysia. So I think these are the dynamics happen when there's a change of government, and so the change of dynamics abroad that cause Malaysia to somehow change certain policy and certain approach in politics when it comes to international relations.
Talking about the KL summit, do you think that the composition, agenda, and prominent participants of the summit accelerated the demise of the Pakatan Harapan coalition government, do you think?
The KL summit, I think, try to come up with a very good agenda, and also it wants to bring together all the Muslim Muslim countries together to find solution to resolve many differences among those countries. Sadly, it's been seen as its agenda to replace OIC, for example, and there's no participant from several Middle Eastern countries to the summits, so on, and which make it seems like the summit is a failure, unable to really unite Muslim world, and also unable to find solution to Muslim problem when it comes to, for example, like poverty, because one of the agenda is to bring help, investment of more rich country to help the poor countries. So this, I think, and with the change of government now, we're not sure whether KL Summit's agenda will be prolonged by the new government, because of course it's a brainchild of Tun Mahathir, that where KL Summit being established and the agenda put forward all actually coming from him. So, but somehow, whether this actually led, I don't know lah. If I understood your question is now led to whether Pakatan also become weak or whatever, as we know that Tun Mahathir, when he was a prime minister, he tried to bring back, meaning that the glory of his time when he was a prime minister, when he's so vocal, talking about so many issues, for example, like issue of Israel-Palestine and so on, and in order to bring back that kinds of image of Malaysia, championing of issue, particularly among the Muslim countries on, So, and I think the target of Tun Mahathir is APEC summit in November, when he also will bring all of the nations together in Malaysia to discuss on economic issues, to resolve economic issues around the world. So, based on that, the problem is not him in the Pakatan. He, I think, has an agenda. But the problem is with Pakatan, actually, the lack of experience of their members, their leaders, and also in government, makes them don't understand the function of the government, the structure of the government, and how to implement the policies. And so even there's no coordination actually when it comes to policy. Sometimes directive from cabinets not follow much by the ministry, So I think there's a lack of, this is because of the lack of experience of them, because they never been experienced in the government, but suddenly become government. But after this, I think probably they know if they've been given chance again to form a government. I think they know because they have experience in the government. So that's, I think, lacking in part of Tun Mahathir. But of course, times to learn from Pakatan's leaders.
Thank you, Professor. This brings us to our next question from our viewer, who is asking, how do you think, who do you think best represent the mandate for the people, Pakatan Harapan or Perikatan Nasional? Do they differ immensely? Do they differ? Is there any major difference between the two coalitions?
Okay, this is, I think, very interesting question, and also I receive a lot asking me about the same questions. when talk about mandate, we need to understand about Malaysian system, electoral system, and so the constitution as well. When we talk, during the elections, actually people, they not voting for the government, they vote for representative in their constituencies. So the mandate that people give actually is to the candidates, in the elections. Of course, the candidate actually representing political party. So those candidates who won the election to become representative of that constituency actually, will form the government through consensus, meaning that through, with the majority votes, among themselves. So, for example, in the parliament, for example, I vote for my constituency. So the representative actually will, this is according to our constitution. The representative, member of parliament, will decide to form a government and decide also to form to nominate one name who got the majority, simple majority, to be the prime minister. So the role of people actually not to choose the government. The role of people actually to choose who going to present for them in their constituency. This is actually according to Westminster system. So we are unlike presidential system when we choose who's the president, like in US system or Indonesia, So it's more clear in terms of our vote actually towards whom, But in Malaysia, we are choosing representative in the constituency, and they actually form the government. So when it comes to mandate, actually, it's according to those people, member of parliament or state assembly, that to form the government. So if they want to change, have the different arrangement, for example, still actually within the law and also within the provision of the constitution. So that's why it's difficult saying that this is mandate only. Last session we give mandate to Perikatan Harapan to form government. But even Perikatan Harapan government is, some of the government, state government actually formed by defection. For example, in Kedah, for example, in Sabah, formed because of defection, people from UMNO leaving UMNO to Perikatan. So then you talk about, hopping, anti-hopping law, whatever, is it relevant now? Yes, I think always relevant, but it requires a political will to do, to establish anti-hopping law, because you think that hopping is immoral, something like that. Because we vote for that one to form a different government, but suddenly that person or representative form a different government not according to what we vote for. So I think this even Pakatan government last time also decided to silent on this idea of establishing anti-hopping law. But when back to my mandates, actually nothing much different. Actually, Perikatan or Pakatan is for me is similar according to the law. But for those who really following certain people, for example, certain personalities or certain political party, yes, definitely they are upset because what they want to see is different, the government that they choose suddenly collapse, forming a different government because of the defection. For me, it's normal in any Westminster system, but of course, if you want to change this kind of practices, the country need to have political will to change it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Professor. If we can just move to a next question, our time is really running out. Thank you so much for that elaborate answer. Adriana is asking, she is saying, lady, apart from her education that she received in the 80s and 90s, there is nothing, and she repeats that there is nothing that the so-called warriors of Malays has contributed to her own family well-being. So she's saying that this is all centered on the Malayu mantra, and that the authorities are basically supporting their own circles and their own cronies. And obviously this is a relevant question if you want to answer.
Okay. As we know, in Malaysia, in order to maintain maintain support, among the people. There one culture, political culture that being practiced today, which we call it, a patron-client political culture or patronage system that being applied. So, in order to, for example, bring support from the Malay community to the political party, this system being applied not only through Perikatan Nasional previously, even Perikatan also used the same methods in order to attract support from the people. Of course, Malay agenda was being being promoted, particularly by UMNO, and now you can see PAS. In fact, Perikatan also tried to come up with this kind of Malay agenda through Bersatu previously. Even Anwar Ibrahim so saying that somehow we cannot question the right of the Malay, the privileges given by the constitution, everything. So all being this become part of the system that to ensure that the majority being supported. Throughout even from previous generation until today. So of course, there is an issue. There's an issue. That's why when I talk about NEP, for example, new economic policy, one of the criticism with the NEP is because of the leakages. Meaning that scholarship, for example, not given to the needs, the Malay or Bumipitra who really needs scholarship for studies, but being given to somebody who have a close son or daughter of the leaders from certain political party, UMNO, whatever. So this actually, and not to mention about corruption that happen, given projects to certain people who have close link with political parties. So these are some of the criticism which I think makes tarnish the Malay agenda, which I think is good in order to make Malay progress in the community and also get opportunity, as equal as others.
Professor Azizuddin, we only have 2 or 3 minutes left.
Okay.
I am sorry to interrupt you. There was just one question related to Vision 2020. There appears that the person who is asking question, saying that by August 2020, this vision will not be realized, it seems. And why don't the leadership focuses on food security of Malaysia rather than just wearing masks?
Okay.
Question goes.
I think Vision 2020, we already admit, the previous government, Perikatan also already admitted that it won't happen this year. In fact, they reprojected the vision to 2030. But I think by the previous government, the current government have yet to come up with whether they are following the similar approach and a similar approach by the Perikatan Harapan government. And because now we are not sure that the current agenda of because there's no major policy by the government, unlike Perikatan Harapan before. So I'm not sure whether the agenda to make Malaysia a developed country by 2030 is still in progress. So that's why it's difficult to answer to that question. The one is, I'm also don't understand why not only current government, previous government also never concerned about issue of food security, because we used to become exporter of many goods, essential goods, but now become importer of that, particularly rice, for example. So I think we need to strengthen of our agricultural industry in Malaysia, which I think we have huge land, a lot of land now to explore, and the only thing we need to encourage Malaysian, to venture into agriculture more rather than moving toward industrial, to become engineers, whatever. So I think this need to be set up by the policy of the government. Without government policy and really, promoted by the government, I don't think we will think food security is important to us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Azizuddin. We will have to end it there because we ran out of time. Thank you so much for your elaborate analysis of the Malaysian politics amid the COVID-19 crisis and all the additional answers that you provided to the viewers. We really appreciate having you as a guest speaker, indeed keynote speaker of this particular IRF webinar. I think we will probably need more time to address all these questions and answers that you would have to provide. So hopefully there will be opportunities in the future. Thank you also to all our viewers who are tuning in, wherever they might be based. And on behalf of Islamic Renaissance Front, I really thank you so much and appreciate your participation today. Thank you for all those who asked questions. We apologize if we couldn't take all of them, and hopefully there will be other opportunities. The next webinar of the Islamic Renaissance Front will probably happen in 2 weeks' time, and this will be advertised on the website of IRF. So hope to be able to continue this discussion with you, respected Professor Azizuddin, and all the best to you and to the viewers. Assalamu alaikum, and good afternoon to you all on behalf of Islamic Renaissance Front. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much.